And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. Phone number 888-659-3727. Great to be here. Another Tuesday night live doing the Bald Show. And, you know I told you guys that I would be taking some more time off, and I will be. Even though we did a live show last week, I don't want you guys to think that we're going to be doing live every Tuesday, because I just won't be able to, because I'll be traveling a lot, going back and forth, visiting my family, visiting my dad, and doing some other things. But like I said, I will try to get new content out to you guys every week. But this broadcast is live. So you can give us a call here at 888-659-3727 if you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss. And if you don't know who the hell I am, and this is the first time that you're listening to this broadcast, let me explain what we do here. Now, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women who are dealing with hair loss. I am the author of The Bald Truth and the Truth About Women's Hair Loss. I'm the founder of an organization that you may be familiar with called the American Hair Loss Association. And I am a guy who has been dealing with hair loss for the past 2 decades. Actually, I'm 48 years old now, so I've been dealing with it for 27 years. Is that right? Is it 27 years? Holy shit, yeah, 20. I started going bald 27 years ago. Most of you guys who are listening to me right now are younger than 27, I'm sure. Or maybe around that age. That's probably about the median age range. Wow, I can't believe it's been 27 years. And if you're looking at me for the first time, if you've never seen my picture, you've never seen any videos of me, you're probably thinking, wait a second, this guy, he's an older guy, he's got hair in his head. And he says that he's been balding since the age of 21. I have to, give full disclosure here that while there is still a significant amount of hair in my head, some of this is a sham. It is a quasi-comb-over. I paint the back of my head. I wear a ton of hairspray. I do whatever it takes to give myself the semblance, to give myself the, I can't think of the word now, but to give myself some kind of mock full head of hair. And I feel very fortunate. I feel extremely fortunate that in the past 27 years, I've been able to save so much hair that I can pull off this sham. And I think that most people are not quite as fortunate. Because they make the wrong decisions. Because we are so vulnerable as hair loss sufferers, we will do anything to try to stop our hair loss. We will believe any fucking nonsense that's out there. And when I started doing this broadcast, when I first was published, I just spit all over the microphone, in 1998, when I sold my book, and it was first published in 98, it was my goal to really separate the hope from the hype in this incredibly treacherous industry. It was my hope to give people the information and the knowledge they need to make informed decisions when they were doing something about their hair loss. Because when I started, it was the effing dark ages. There was no information out there. The internet was in its infancy. When I was doing my research, I could not find anything that wasn't self-published or self-promoting. that wasn't put out by someone who was trying to sell me some shit. So I set out to change that. And I got to tell you guys, for a few years, it was extremely powerful. When I first got published, when I first got on the radio, I'm not going to go into the whole story, it set this fucking industry on its ear. Thousands upon thousands of people were tuning in and writing and reading and learning and sharing and getting information that they had never seen before. And the internet was starting to grow, and the information online was starting to get out there, and so many people were being helped. And then something happened. And, a guy that you guys know very well, if you've been listening to the show, Joe Tillman, who is known as Joe Tronic online, I think he puts it really well. He coined the phrase, at least in this industry, and I think everywhere, the dumbing down of the internet. It's a phenomenon that I have been watching evolve and unfold and grow in like an epidemic proportions. I've been watching as the information, it's kind of like the telephone game. How what was initially good information, or that was empowering information, gets twisted into misinformation, and how certain factions of the hair loss industry would put out disinformation so that they can sell their products and services. And now there are a lot of people online, thousands of them, in the hair loss community, who truly believe that they are so incredibly knowledgeable that what they think and what they espouse online is accurate information that, could potentially help people. And what I've learned over the years, just by kind of watching people online and watching the information evolve, and I've used that word 20 times probably in this broadcast, is that the more people think they know, the more easily they're actually fooled. The more information that they think they have because they've done so much research, because they have, gotten involved in conspiracy theories and a belief system that nothing can be trusted. And I get that. I mean, that's the shit that I used to preach, and I still do, that this is a treacherous industry, that most of what out there is complete bullshit. But I'm seeing people who have so much information that they become paralyzed, that they can't do anything. They can't make a move. They stay stagnant for years, hoping against hope that someone is going to come out with some sort of miracle fucking cure that's not going to cause any potential side effects, that's going to be completely scar-free, that's going to help them without any particular or possible downsides. And I can tell you this, that does not exist in medicine, period. And in most aspects of life, there is always a consequence to your action. Even if you're doing something completely positive for yourself, there is always a consequence. Nothing is completely free of possible issues down the line, no matter what it is. So for those of you who are in this community who believe you've been around for a long time and that you know more than a lot of what's being put out there through conventional wisdom, in some cases that might be true, but I'm telling you guys, I see it every day. I read about it every day. There are those of you who are out there who have gained so much knowledge, who believe in what they believe in such a dogmatic fashion that they are allowing them to be fooled, themselves to be fooled, allowing themselves to be fooled by those who really understand how to take advantage of you. And that may be a little cryptic, but, I do read the message forum, baldtruthtalk.com, on Tuesdays before the show. And I'm watching the trends on that forum and also what trickles down from our forum onto other forums. It's scary. It's really scary. So for those of you who really believe that you can get away with replacing your hair without any possible downside, I'm telling you that does not exist. If you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss, give us a call. 888-659-3727 is the phone number. It's probably Joe. Let's see if it is. Hey, you're on the air.
Good evening, Spencer. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Spencer, I have to admit to you, I'm going to have to ask you to castigate your staff severely.
Why is that?
For not notifying my show. Luckily, my son Vincent woke me up. I assumed the show was not on tonight. I'm not prepared. I'm winging it. I've been researching, of course, all week. I have information to present. But I am inadequately prepared. I have to admit that.
How can you not be prepared? You never know. I told you, you never know when the show's going to be live. You never know.
Oh.
Now,
please,
yeah, go ahead.
Your staff, I'm sure, for not emailing me or something, so I've been more adequately prepared for the show.
Okay, well, you've already castigated them, so that's fine.
So please, would you mind? I have a brief comment. You want to get my opening first, or should I make a brief comment?
I'll play your opening, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
My name is excuse me. My name is
Would you like to may reiterate it?
My name is
Have you heard it? Excuse me.
My name is
Joe from Staten Island.
All right, man. So what's on your mind?
Well, first of all, I don't know. Well, I want to talk about another show. Let me get to the groundbreaking news first. Last week's show I presented blockbuster news that changes the history of hair loss forever. Last week on last week's show, follicle.
Okay.
And people are not happy with that either.
Who cares?
That follicle has created new hair follicles, follicular neogenesis.
Joe, what do you care? What do you care if people online who are sitting, behind their keyboards, who have absolutely, I would say, at least for the most part, have no idea what the reality of the situation is? What do you even care?
I mean, are these people insane, or is it me? I don't know. I'm losing you, Spencer. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. Andrew is talking to me about my sound.
Tell engineers to raise the volume a little bit.
My volume?
Yeah, you come a little weak on the phone.
Man, I don't know, dude. I'm having an engineer come in tomorrow, so we'll see if we can make that better for you.
Who, Mr. McPhillips?
No, not McPhillips. So go ahead.
No, I had let me get off for. I had a very interesting conversation with Mr. McPhillips. You're familiar with him. He's one of your producers. Am I correct?
He is actually not one of my producers, but he does help us with some of our sound issues. So I would say that he's more of a consultant.
Well, I appeared on GFQ's show on Friday, some type of free-for-all. I don't know exactly what it was. And I appeared on that. I don't know if you heard about that.
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Starring Mr. McPhillips, and he complimented me. He gave me over 45 minutes of airtime.
Oh,
and he
great.
believes that he wants to get me a microphone so I could Skype into the show. He believes that would be more effective for your millions of viewers.
Well, it would definitely work. Your sound would be better, and I would have less trouble because I have trouble with my phones. But it's for you. It may be difficult. You say you don't Skype. You don't really utilize your computer for the show at all, except you're involved in the chat. So I mean, you would have to hardwire in. You would have to have a really strong internet connection, and you would have to. I mean, it could work, but it could be a pain in the ass for you as well.
Yeah, he made me diagnose him on the air. It was a very interesting show. Maybe you have Andrew send you a tape of that show on Friday night.
I can definitely check out. So diagnose him for what?
I diagnosed him as a Nord 5A. He asked me my expert. I'm a health loss expert. He asked me my opinion. I said, you're a Nord 5A.
And so, and did you tell him what can possibly be done for him?
I said you'd get 4,000 to 5,000 grafts. We'll give you some coverage. But he wants a thick, full head of hair. I said, well, then get a wig.
That's
and he
really
also paid me.
He's also, I mean, he's been living with significant hair loss for a long time. So I don't think it's something that it may still bother him, but I don't think it bothers him as much as it bothers most.
I don't know if he was being facetious or what, but he said I was one of the biggest stars of the GFQ network in his opinion.
Well, listen,
I'm a little startled by that.
I don't know. I mean, maybe that's what he believes, and isn't that a compliment, Joe? I mean, you should appreciate that.
No, I said Spencer Kobren and Andrew Zarin are the biggest stars. I'm just kind of like a sidekick. I'm not a star. Spencer's a star. I'm a sidekick.
Okay.
Well, get back to hair news. Okay, we have follicle. Okay, we have information for follicle. We have information for histgen. We've gotten information from. I'm at a loss tonight. I just woke up. Allergen. Information from allergen.
Allergen, yeah.
Now we're waiting for information from Adirans. We've gotten a lot of information. The bottom line is things are working. That's the bottom line.
Yes.
History is being made.
Yes, there are those out there that believe that for some reason these companies have failed, and that's just not the case. So I don't even know where that comes from. When I read this stuff, I think to myself, Jesus, I mean, what is it about these guys who want to put that out there on the internet, who want to, give people less hope, make them believe? I mean, and sometimes I think, are they involved with like products and different services out there trying to?
That's what I was about to ask you. Are they paid trolls?
I don't know. I don't know. Listen, one thing I know about the internet, one thing I know about message forums is you never know where the fuck stuff comes from. You never know who is telling you what. That's why even, when I see these guys who go out there and post about their hair transplants, I don't know if these are real guys. I don't know where they're coming from. I read this stuff, I'm thinking, it could be anybody. These pictures could be taken from anywhere. And they're out there, they're battling it out online about, one doctor against another doctor's, group of people or camp. And it's ridiculous. I did an interview with a guy who went to see a really good doctor by the name of Scott Bowden in Connecticut. He had a very relatively modest hair transplant. And
how many grafts?
It was like 2,800 grafts. It made all the difference. All the difference in the world for this guy. Let me tell you, this guy was a full-blown, 5, going towards a 6. Older guy, 58 years old, really in great shape. You can check out the video on thebaldtruth.com. But just by framing his face, just by making that slight change, that extra hair, it made all the difference in the world for him. And what was important about this guy, and I think that's these type of guys make the perfect candidates, is he wasn't desperate for hair. He wasn't putting his life on hold. He lived his life. He was bald for a very long time. He had a very good life, and he continues to have a good life. He's retiring at a young age, moving out of state to retire. He's never going to have to work again, and he decided he just wanted some more hair to just something he wanted. And he had it done. He's actually going in for another procedure, I think, in a few days. But I guess my point is this guy went full face. This guy was able to talk about his experience. And we knew where it was coming from. He put his name out there. He put his face out there. We know that this guy's for real. So I don't know, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that stuff, but I don't know where some of this information comes from. I don't know if these guys are just really savvy, internet posters who kind of want to control or help to control the flow of information and get people really disappointed about these potential treatments so they can buy something else or go in another direction or have a specific type of transplant. Spinning all over the place. So all I can tell you, Joe, is that I think a lot of that is just misinformation, man. I don't know if it's necessarily disinformation, but I think that it's just a lot of people are misinformed or they're disappointed because something's not coming out overnight. And, they put that out there on the internet. Maybe there are some guys who are just voicing their frustration, just voicing their disappointment. But I really believe that we are at a place now, we're closer than we've ever been. Does it mean that it's going to be 5 years away or 2 years away or 3 years away? I don't know. I have no idea. But I do know that it will happen, that these companies are working on it. It's not like it was when we were younger.
You have us experts in the world. You don't know when it's coming out, but these guys in the chat room, these guys on the forums know when things are coming out. You don't know?
No, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm reading. I'm
being facetious.
I know that. I'm actually reading something about my sound from Andrew.
These guys know how much hair Repsol will grow, how much hair Fall will grow. They know everything.
I just think it's important that the guys who frequent our message forum in particular, and all the message forums, they get a chance to see this program, and maybe it helps to put things or provide them with a little perspective. If people go out there online after they listen to what we discuss and still kind of tout the bullshit, then I think those are the guys you have to look at with a jaundiced eye. And that's it. There, how many thousands of really bright people read our message forum, who see through all the bullshit, who look at some of it as just pure entertainment, and they kind of just sift through, to get what they consider to be reasonable information. Thousands. I would say most people who read the message forums are like that. There's a small group, kind of a faction of like hardcore mother effers who are out there who, they want to believe anything. They want to, kind of go against the tide because they think if they do that, that they're getting some sort of inside information, some knowledge that the mainstream doesn't have. And sadly, guys, that's not true. I have been around forever, and I have seen it come and go. I've seen all these guys come and go. All the guys that are out there pandering to desperate people on the message forums, they have never survived. Well, one guy has, but he didn't really pander. His name has been out there, but they don't survive. They come and go. They spend a lot of time on these forums. They answer a lot of questions. They create a tremendous amount of buzz, and then all of a sudden they disappear into the darkness once things don't come to fruition. So please, that is such a strong possibility today, even with all the buzzwords as far as, stem cells and hair, doubling and, whatever the buzzwords are.
Doubling.
Please realize that there's a possibility that it's all bullshit. Maybe it's true, but please just keep in mind there's a possibility that it's bullshit. And if you keep that in mind, you're going to look at things in a reasonable way and just watch. Let the other people go out and spend their money and their time, and let them be the guinea pigs. There's always going to be a few guys who do it. And in some cases, they may end up being the pioneers if this type of stuff works. But as of today, my belief is that, at least from the information that I have, a lot of the stuff that's being touted online is complete bullshit. So just be careful.
Well, it's true, Spencer, but as you know, the so-called experts on the message forums declared Falk dead, as you know.
Yeah. So what?
And you could have your engineers put up archive shows that I stated. The fact that Falk is saying nothing tells me they're holding big cards close to their vest. They have something major. They ain't talking. And then they launched the blockbuster news last week. So this proves to me exactly what the guys in the message forums know. Like I said last week, they know nothing.
Well, listen, the message forums need to be used for a couple, and I say this all the time. There's a lot of entertainment value, when it comes to certain threads and certain parts of the forum, and then there's also a lot of education, and there's really good information being put out there. There's a guy in Chicago, Dr. Bill Yates, who is obviously is an accepted IHS member, and he's a guy who has, for a while, since he's gotten involved with Bald Truth Talk, trying to put out really good, valuable information, educational information, not just, marketing shit that you see on a lot of sites, but really valuable stuff so to help people really make informed decisions. Put up a couple of videos, one this week and I think one last week. Got a lot of response from them, a lot of personal response, meaning that they contacted us asking if, Dr. Yates is going to put more stuff out like that. And I think that's where the value is when it comes to these resources. People have to kind of look for that type of information and, realize that there's a lot of information you can glean from these resources, but there's also a lot of bullshit. You have to understand the source. Where is this information coming from? If the information is coming from an anonymous source, you might want to look at it twice. You know what I mean, Joe?
Well, Dr. Yates is very informative. I've been dissecting some of his recent reports. As you know, he's very impressed by beard hair transplantation. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I am aware of it. Actually, he's supposed to be calling in tonight because we wanted to talk about some of his...
Well, I would like to give a few minutes to interview him, if you don't mind, about beard hair transplantation and give me a little bit of time.
Joe, I don't mind, man. I definitely don't mind. So is there anything else before I take another call? He may be on the line.
I just want to thank you and your millions of viewers for giving us the honor of you being on the air tonight, Spencer.
Well, I appreciate that. Like I said, I will do as many live shows as I can. When I'm in town, I will always do a live show. If I'm in New York, it's going to be more difficult, obviously, for me to do the live show. I can do it, but it's a little bit of a pain in the ass. So we're going to be providing a lot of recorded stuff throughout the month as well. And I've been having a lot of trouble with my new studio, just a lot. I mean, one issue after the other. There's trouble tonight that I could actually hear in my headset. I'm having a new engineer come in on actually tomorrow to try to work out some of the kinks. So, we're trying to make everything run smoothly, Joe. So, but like I said, I promise I will get new content out there every week, whether it's live or whether it's recorded, all right?
Well, McPhillips was talking about you last week on Friday night. He said he wished he could come over your house and fix your studio for you. I don't know if you heard about that. He wanted to do that for you.
He could do it. He lives on the East Coast, though.
He told me he lives in North Carolina. Is that correct?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I guess he does.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
But let me say one more quick thing in closing. I know you have thousands of other calls in the switchboard, hundreds of other calls.
It's also like 110 degrees in here. I got to find the fan. But go ahead.
Well, don't put a fan on because you could upset your hair. You don't want to do that.
Dude, there's so much hairspray on here, man. It's like it's bulletproof at this point.
But I believe a strong woman can actually dislodge a hair from your head, pull it right out of the follicle. That's what one fear I have with the wind.
Well,
that it can actually make you lose your hair.
Well, I think that's pretty irrational. I mean, I guess maybe if you're in some sort of bizarre hurricane and you happen to be in a telogen phase, I guess but I don't think that's the case, Joe.
Well, that's pretty bizarre. But the bottom line is, one of these days we'll have something, donut doubling, whatever, or a follicle or something like that grows thousands of hairs, and the people in the message forums will attack that. They'll transform a Nova 7 into Nova 2, and certain people will attack that. Am I correct, Spencer, that analysis?
Well, that's correct, but you take the forum, what happens on the forum too seriously, Joe. You got to
This
kind
is
of
my life, Spencer.
you kind of have to forget
I
about what
do.
goes on there. You can't take it seriously. Look, you got to read between the lines. There's a lot of great information on the forum, but there's a lot of bullshit too. All right, so I'm going to take another call. This may be
Well, one more final thing. The bottom line is we're waiting for Adirond's announcement now, which I believe is coming within a month or two. That's what we're waiting for next.
All right. Well, I'm going to put you. I'm going to keep you. I'm going to keep you potted up. All right, dude.
I appreciate that, Spencer. Thank you, Brad. By the way, I like your blue shirt, man.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Spencer. I'll be on hold then.
Yeah, you'll be potted up.
And when you get a chance, please yell at your staff.
I will. Can I do the show? 888-659-37. Can I do the show, Joe?
Of course, you're the boss. I'm one of your sidekick. You're the boss.
888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Andrew is actually in my computer screwing with my sound. Dude, don't screw with my sound while I'm live. Jesus. All right, let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this?
Bill Yates.
Hey, Dr. Yates. How are you, man?
Good. How you doing?
I'm okay. Can you hear me? I'm having some issues with my sound. Okay. So
yeah, I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you. We could hear you perfectly. So, I want listen. You are relatively new to the message forums. Probably about a year you've been involved, something like that.
About a year.
Yeah,
maybe less.
Maybe less. Yeah, and I'm sure you've spent some time reading a lot of the nonsense on the forums. And as a physician, I'm just curious. I mean, what are your thoughts about some of what goes on as far as, some of the fringe stuff that's being talked about, perhaps, and again, you can be diplomatic about this, but perhaps some of the ways some people in the industry may be pandering to kind of unsuspecting hair loss sufferers online. I mean, do you notice that, or are you kind of just focused on certain aspects of the forum?
I read everything on the forum to kind of see what information is out there. What I think the major problem is, just a flaw in the industry, is that there's no real quality control regulation of the hair transplant industry. Say, my background as a general surgeon and a trauma surgeon, I was head of a department of surgery with trauma, is that you have so many quality control. You can't be a surgeon at this hospital unless you've passed so many exams and so many people are familiar with your work that your voice never gets heard, because basically you have nothing to say.
Right.
So I think that there are a lot of people that speech is free, say a lot of things with really no scientific basis whatsoever. People who are losing their hair, of course, are a very vulnerable group of people. And I mean, the hair industry is $1 billion industry. You walk down the aisle in Walgreens, everything at Walgreens, they say they'll grow your hair, won't do it, but they're still selling it and they're making a lot of money from it. So, a lot of things on the forum both ways. I think the patients are just yearning for information and trying to make sense of it. A lot of them are angry because they're losing their hair and they don't know who to be angry at and they don't know who to believe. So I just think there needs to be just like you say, like a total upheaval of the transplant industry, because there just needs to be better, quality control. It's just like any doctor just can't go in, like you're in LA and Cedars-Sinai and start doing surgery. I mean, or start doing dermatology.
Right.
You have to be able to cut the mustard. They're not going to even say, hey, no, buddy, you can go somewhere else. But with hair transplants, that's not true. Anybody who can, pull up their flag and take some, good pictures can start doing hair transplants.
And that's the issue. And that's why I started what I started. That's why I founded the IHRS. That's why I founded the American Hair Loss Association. But the problem with that is, even if we get the best doctors who are doing the most consistent work out there, there are still issues. And I say this publicly all the time. Even the doctors in the IHRS, they are jockeying for a position. It's very difficult to kind of have something like a blanketed philosophy. And I understand why. Listen, it's the practice of medicine. And that's why it's called the practice of medicine. You guys kind of do your thing based on your own personal experience within your practice. And I get that.
Right.
But it's still so hard to kind of for consumers to kind of figure it out. Even when we narrow down that playing field, so to speak, it's still difficult.
Well, the playing field actually, in my mind, is too narrow with hair transplants. It's not enough doctors to really, there are not enough good people thinking about the problems because there's no training. Like say with all the other surgery programs like orthopedics or cardiology, they're training programs that put out 1 million bright people every year to contribute to the field. Hair transplantation is just the opposite. They're trying to do all they can, and I know I'll take a lot of heat from this, to keep the field from letting it expand. So you don't get a lot of bright people coming in to think. I was just watching a commercial last night about, people who have been the leaders in hair transplantation for 30 or 40 years. Nobody can lead anything for 30 years. Nobody's won the Super Bowl 30 years in a row.
Right.
Every year another team wins. Why? Because they get better players.
Right.
There has to be more people out here thinking, trying new things, just like with FUE. Somebody, has to carry the flag and say, well, let's try it. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we know it doesn't work. Just say, hey, that doesn't work because I said it doesn't work. It's the problem is there are not enough people out here doing hair transplant surgery. There are not enough voices, and there are too many voices. The voices that are here are too loud, and they should be softer because, my first meeting, I'll just tell this one story. Back in 2006, I went to the ISHRS meeting, and I think Alan Bauman was standing up saying, I'm going to do 3,000 grafts, and I do it routinely. And guys were saying, oh, you can't do that. That's too many grafts. Now that's crazy.
Yeah. I know.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And it seems like the old guard, and I've been talking about the old guard for years. They really want to kind of control that flow of information. And in my view, it was out of fear. Things have changed.
It's not.
Go ahead.
It's out of bills, fear of not paying your bills.
Well, yeah, it's fear and greed. Absolutely.
Right.
The
patients suffer.
No, and I agree 100%, and I've been preaching that forever. But even amongst, and I'm noticing this, even amongst the good guys, it's becoming more difficult. And like you said, there's just so few really great guys. Listen, I say this all the time. I have received hundreds of applicants to the IHRS, and if I actually exposed everyone who applied, it would be like, I'm sure a lot of people would deny it, but a large percentage of ISHRS members have applied in the last 10 years. I've accepted like 60 doctors total. Everyone has a check in hand, and it's sad. That's a sad state of affairs. Don't you think I want to make more money? I would love to. I would love to accept all these guys. But we can't. It just can't be done. Most of the guys don't have the philosophy that you have. And in my view, they don't have the patient's best interest in mind. With that said, because of, my consumer advocacy and because of, the Bald Truth and the IHRS and others in this field who have done things to try to, get good information out there, there's a group of doctors who kind of, I believe, really take advantage of that. Take advantage of, okay, we want, they're promoting even less invasive procedures than FUE, even less invasive procedures than we ever, it's beyond just pushing the envelope. In my mind, there are some guys out there who are pandering to these vulnerable people, offering them procedures that not only haven't been proven, that may just never work, in anybody's hands. Yeah. And it's all based on this fear of the strip. It's all based on this, minimally invasive type of thing. And now it's being based on kind of like, regenerating and having unlimited donor hair. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, again, that's pretty bogus. And again, taking advantage of a very vulnerable population. I think there's some really exciting stuff that's going on that's real. And the way that I measure things, is, as scientific as I can. I have to say, and there are a lot of skeptics with the, ARTIS system. I just adopted the ARTIS system, and I have to say, I think that's real, meaning that the graft quality is good. I don't care what methods you use. As Ford says, quality is job one. If the graft is not good, there's nothing to talk about. I don't care if you do FUE, strip, stand on your head, whatever. So ARTIS, when it removes the graft quality is good. And how do I know it's good? Because I do FUE, and I know what good grafts look like. So I think, in my mind, that's a technique that's going to be here to stay that will, for guys that, are worried about donor scars, I think it eliminates that problem, and it also spreads out the harvest so it doesn't harvest one area too much, because a lot of guys, when they start FUE, they get kind of happy because once you hit the sweet spot, which is right in the middle against that occipital bone, it's pretty easy to get the hair. Yeah. So you're like, oh, my God, I'm a pro, and then you just kind of make a divot in there. But the artist system takes all that guesswork away from you. You plan out your case and kind of spreads it out evenly. And I've had it now 3 months, and the back heals up just as well as when you take out. And I usually use a 0.9 millimeter punch. I can't tell the difference between the artist patients and the ones I've punched out. And the FUE hair, like I said on that last post I did, grows just as well as any strip, maybe better, because we're targeting. I can see the hairs I want to pick. When you take out a strip, you take out anagen, and you take out telogen hairs and miniaturized hair. Everybody has miniaturized hair in the back of their head. They're only fooling themselves to think they don't.
Right.
When you do FUE, that miniaturized hair, I can see it. I'm like, hey, I don't want that little guy. I'm taking the big guy.
Right.
I'm taking this guy. I'm taking this guy. But it doesn't leave your hair at the back of your head with just miniaturized hair. So a lot of these doctors, I just think, they're in denial about the whole thing because, it's another skill. Everybody, is comfortable, and that's just how life is. But that's why we need more than less, more people who are, thinking about it than less people. And I'm not criticizing any doctors out there because I've met a lot of great hair transplant doctors that are working like crazy to make sure their patients are happy. They would do anything and, to make sure they're getting the best result, Well, but in my mind, the best result is not going to be with a piece of your scalp cut out. I just think that to me right now is just unpalatable to, even if you wear your hair long, why would you want that if you can get the same result without that?
Well, look, and I have been one of the biggest proponents of FUE forever, but I will say this. I am actually doing an interview with another hair transplant surgeon on Thursday, and he just decided, and this guy can have work done by anybody, and he also does FUE. Now, and I wanted to talk to him about this because this is like I said, this is what makes the practice of medicine. This guy decided to have a third procedure, and he decided to have a strip. And he wanted to talk about why he chose to have that on himself when he knows everything. And this guy performs FUE on a regular basis. He's actually considering working with one of these devices. And in his mind, he's like, you know what? I know what I need for myself. He decided to have a strip. Right. So I'm very interested kind of to get, his reasoning behind that.
Sure.
And I certainly understand
your
reasoning.
His reasoning makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell every patient there are no two hair transplants alike. So, when you look through these books and they say, well, this guy only had 800 grafts, well, I should only get 1,200. It's like, no, each one of these, patients has different head size, different girth of hair, different loss. This is just a guide. I've never done two hair transplants that are the same, so every patient's needs are unique.
Sure.
So I'll say this. I've had like 4 to 5 strips on the back of my head, and I would never get another strip on my head. I would just do FUE till the cows come home on my, have people do it on me. I would never get another strip on my head.
Yeah, and I get that, and I think that's an important perspective, to get out there, and that's why I think it's so different. Like you said, every person is different, every procedure is different, every case is different,
and you can't compare them. And so when guys, they always want to compare this one to, and I understand that makes perfect sense. But I know your friend Johnny did this, but that really doesn't have much to do with you because, his total individual is totally different. And
that's the problem. That's the problem with the online world. You will see, there are guys out there who are going to criticize you for what you said about the artist, and there's a certain segment of the online population who really believe that any type of quote-unquote automated device is bad for the industry, that it could actually, it's only good for the doctor who's using it, it's not good for the patient, and that the only way to do FUE is with a handheld punch because of, you need a certain feel and this and that and the other thing. And the truth of the matter is, like you said, every practice is different. Now, I am looking more and more into the artist. I'm starting to see some results. and I'm starting to speak with patients who have had the work done. I can honestly say that most patients who I've spoken with are happy. Now, with that said, none of these patients are guys that really spend a lot of time on internet message forums. So are they happy because they don't know any better, or are they happy because they're not paralyzed by the information that's being put out there, you know, or poisoned by the information that's being put out there on the internet? I don't know. But these particular patients are happy. And I think the bottom line is that's why they're going to have surgical hair restoration, so they could be more comfortable in their own skin. So, you know, sometimes what bothers me, what I see online is a happy patient will come on and say, hey, you know, say it's an artist patient. I had an artist procedure, blah, blah, blah. I'm happy with the outcome. And then all of a sudden, all these naysayers jump on them. And they're basically saying, well, how can you be happy with that? Do you really know what you got involved in? And then they start to make this poor guy feel bad about the decision that he made, even though he was actually happy with making that decision.
I don't know how they could really make a guy feel bad about, you know, restoring his hair, not having a big, you know,
I don't know,
a happy face in the back of your head. I don't know what there's to feel bad about, you know? And the way that I answer those questions, to understand how good artist is, you have to know how to do FUE and know how to do it well. So there are just a few guys who can really answer that question. Is manual FUE as good as the artist? You have to know how to do both. Now, I know, like Jim Harris, who is very, you know, helped develop the artist system, he would be one of those guys that would know. And I know he uses both systems. So,
yeah, but then you got a guy like John Cole, who, you know, is a, you know, he's not a big fan of the artist, and he's gone out there publicly and he says what he says in a very, you know, colorful way. Let's just say.
Right.
And he'll tell you that
he's tried it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
He's a smart man, and I respect him, you know, with all due respect in medicine, because he's a very skilled FUE surgeon. But
he is.
You know, so am I, and I can go down both paths, and the grafts are just as good, so they grow just as well. So, you know, the claim to fame for artists, really, I think, in my mind, is for people, hair transplant surgeons, who want to offer their patients a state-of-the-art technology, who aren't super competent FUE surgeons.
Right.
You know, so they can give their patients the benefit of that technology, but they can't pull out a safe system or Dr. Cole's instrument and knock off 3,000 grafts in a day and have a quality hair transplant.
But couldn't that also eventually be the downfall of the artist? Because I think, listen, there's only so many hair transplant surgeons out there that they're going to be able to lease this machine to. Eventually, in order to get to make their money back, or to really make a profit, they're going to have to lease this thing to, you know, cosmetic surgeons or, you know, plastic surgeons who want to grow their practice. Right now, they're not doing that. But don't you think it could backfire? Because that's exactly, I think, why the device, why the robot was invented in the first place, to make this a procedure that more people can perform and more people can benefit from. But sadly, what's going to happen, I think sadly what's going to happen is when it gets in the hands of guys who have never performed a hair transplant, listen, this only extracts grafts. It doesn't place grafts. You know, it's not designing a hairline. You know, so I think in the end, a lot of people could be harmed just based on the fact that it's a company that has to make their money back and has to earn a profit.
Right. But I think in the same vein, I mean, I hear what you're saying, but in their hearts, of course they want to make money, but at the end of the day, you want to make the product the best for the patient. You know, so if you can come up with some system that can extract the best looking hair, not leave a scar in the back, you know, for a hair transplant surgeon, I think you're doing your patient the best service ever by offering state-of-the-art technology. Now, there's always potential for abuse.
Right.
You know, as you're saying.
And I agree what you're saying. I agree with 100% with what you're saying. I mean, in the right hands, I think it could be an incredible device. My concern is what happens when it gets into the wrong hands.
Well, I mean, you know, there was already models for that. I mean, NeoGraft, you know, and all those types of things that are, you know, just being passed around. But the people that at Restoration Robotics, that's not their model. They're, you know, going after true-blooded hair transplant, restoration surgeons that do this for a living and act, because trust me, they don't want their name scarred.
Right.
They want this thing to take off and to be, the next Apollo 12 or whatever,
Right.
Space shuttle. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So they don't want to risk their reputation, and it's too expensive for these guys to be who aren't real serious about honing on their craft to just buy one and just put an ad on Groupon or something and mess the thing up. So
well, but
I hear what
think
you're saying, but
I listen. I totally get what you're saying as well. But I think that I think that we're all being a little optimistic about that because listen, I know the world of business. I know the world of the business. The cosmetic surgery business, and right now I think they have a good model. I like the fact that they are sticking with hair transplant surgeons, guys who really understand everything that
the rest
entails
of the craft. I mean,
exactly
right.
I do believe that at some point, it's just the nature of business. If they're able to sell more product, it may happen. So I think that patients need to be educated not just about the technology of artists, but about hair transplantation in general, and understand that it's not just the device. It really is the surgeon and the team that's involved that makes the end result. So listen, guy.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say no. That sums it up, for any procedure right there. There's so many pieces at a hair transplant where it could go wrong if you're not proficient at every step. And you have to be proficient at every step. So, all the doctors always bragging and this doctor, but it's not about just the doctor, the staff, everything has to be right. The moon has to line up perfectly every day to get this right.
Yeah, and you know what? Sadly, most consumers don't understand that. And I think, no matter what we try to do, there will always be the stronger marketers, the guys that have the $50 million a year to spend on, mainstream marketing that are going to kind of get their message out there. And then sadly what happens is, obviously there's a percentage who see that marketing that end up finding us after they decide to do a little more due diligence. But there's also a large percentage of people that end up kind of getting caught in the fray and maybe harmed by some of this marketing. And then they come to us for repair. That's a problem,
right?
And that's what we're trying to change. Listen, Doc, I'm going to put you on hold. We have to take a break. Well, when we come back, do you have time to do another segment?
Yeah, I got some more time.
Okay, all right. So, well, I want to talk more about some of the educational efforts that you're working on and some of the videos that you're putting out online, because I think it's really compelling stuff. And frankly, most doctors aren't really spending the time to do that. And I think a lot of prospective patients really appreciate what you're doing. So we'll talk about that. Phone number is 888-659-3727. 888-659-3727. When we come back, we'll be speaking more with Dr. Bill Yates. We'll be taking your phone calls. And, so if you have any questions, concerns, if you're considering surgical hair restoration, now may be a good time to call into the program. If you have any questions about anything related to hair loss, also feel free. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The winner of 7 prestigious Golden Forehead Awards.
My family's always arguing. It always starts off innocent and then it gets vicious right away. So I was like, hey, looks like you're losing some hair. At least my wife's not a whore.
Spencer David Kobren.
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Great to be back here on a Tuesday night doing the Bald Show. Late, great Gary Coleman. One of the highlights of the Bald Truth, having him in our studio back in Westwood One. I think that was back in that was before we were doing the video stuff, so that was probably back in 2007 or something like that. And he had no effing clue why he was in there. He actually did the entire show. And it was really hilarious. And he was kind enough to do an ID for us, so it is what it is. I don't think most people would have left in the part where he asked me to go into my wallet, but I just thought that was hilarious, so I wanted to keep that out there. 888-659-3727. Listen, if you're new to the broadcast, don't know who I am, why I'm here, real quick, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women suffering with hair loss. We've been doing this broadcast for like 14 years. This is your safe place to talk about anything and everything hair loss. And, the sad fact is most of the stuff that's being sold out there in this $3.5 billion a year industry, and that includes transplants and wigs, hair pieces, and shampoos and all that stuff, is complete bullshit. Will not help you in any way, shape, or form. People are out there trying to take advantage of you and sell you shit. If something has a money-back guarantee in this industry, I will tell you that you're probably buying a guaranteed piece of crap. If you're smart, and if you do your due diligence, you can navigate through this industry safely. But you need to be aware of the reality of what goes on. Sadly, in my view, while initially the internet, I think, provided so much great information, now there is so much misinformation out there that it becomes even more difficult to navigate through this industry. That's why this place exists. So if you have any questions or concerns about your hair loss, please give us a call, 888-659-3727, coast to coast and worldwide now on the internet. I want to thank Stitcher Radio and iTunes and Ustream.tv and Justin TV and Vaughn and obviously the GFQ Network, who syndicates this program internationally online, for taking the bald truth seriously, for understanding that this isn't just a niche broadcast. We touch a huge and reach a huge demographic of the population, the biggest demographic of humankind, and that's hair loss sufferers. Thank you for taking this broadcast seriously and helping us to make this one of the most watched internet broadcasts online. 888-659-3727. We still have Dr. Bill Yates on the line. Hey, Dr. Yates, thanks for holding on for another segment. Can you
I wanted to ask you, did Gary Coleman, he had a good head of hair, didn't he?
You know what? He did, but the thing is, he shaved. When I met him, and I met him a couple of times, but when he was on my show, he had shaved his head. So he was basically clean shaven. So, but he, he had other issues, obviously, and I don't think he necessarily understood the whole hair loss thing.
Right.
But it was a lot of fun having him on, and he's a
That's
very
amazing. That was one of my favorite shows. When I heard the intro, I was like, wow, Gary Coleman. Brings back memories.
Late great Gary Coleman. Yeah. So what I wanted to touch on before I let you go is the fact that you're starting to put out more educational videos online. It's one thing for doctors who are members of the IHRS to post their before and after images. I think it's important that patients see that so they know what they're looking at, and they kind of help them to make a choice when they're considering surgical hair restoration. But I think what you're doing is so important, and the fact that you're taking the time to do it really, I think, speaks volumes for your want to better educate the hair loss community. And I wanted to talk about the last video that you put out there, which I think was compelling. It was a really great video describing, why you choose to how you choose to plan surgery and basically design a hairline. Because most guys, when you see the young guys out there, they always talk about getting their teenage hairline back.
Right.
And that's a huge issue that when especially when younger guys are turned away from surgical hair restoration to begin with, it flips them out. They feel like they're somehow being, targeted for whatever reason, that they're not allowed to have a hair transplant, when in fact you're really saving them for potential heartache. Right.
Well, I think what you said before when I was listening to the intro, a hair transplant is going to be a compromise. It's not going to be what you want, because in everybody's mind, they have an image of how they used to look when they were 16, 17, or everybody has their glory years when they can look back at themselves and say, God, I wish I could look like that. And that's what they hold in their mind. that 99, well, not maybe 99, but 95% of the guys and females is not going to happen.
Right.
But somewhere in between, say that 95 and maybe 50% you can get. I mean, and that's a great improvement from what you have right now or where you would go if you don't have anything. Because I always tell people denial is the worst thing. There's so many guys, like when I'm in the gym, they're just, ripped, and their hair loss bothers them, but they're just paralyzed for I don't even know what reason it is. And when guys will come in, they'll talk to me, it's like, well, I'm not so bad, Doc. Do you think I should do it now or should I wait? So I say, well, the only thing that's going to happen if you wait is you're going to be balder. That's the only thing I can guarantee.
Right.
So if you're here talking to me, obviously it bothers you, so I do something about it.
And yeah,
and
there's a lot. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I was just saying that's the things that I was trying to just bring across in videos is that even when I had my first hair transplant, and it was done by Dr. Zarian, he was explaining to me because I came in and I was telling him, well, I want my hairline like this, and he was saying, no, you can't do it like that. And I was like, why? And I was a doctor, a trauma surgeon, cancer surgeon then, and he explained it to me, and of course it made sense. It's like, well, wow, I'd rather have some hair than no hair, and it grew perfectly, the shape is perfect. It's just so much misinformation that you just have to, bring people down to earth to let them know this is how we do it, this is why we do it, and we're doing it for your best interest. I mean, we don't want you, the young guys come in and they want that flat hairline and rounded temples, and, I'm sorry, it just can't be done. I want you to have that, but that's not in your best interest or mine,
And, people, and they come away being extremely disappointed, and then they go online, they write about it, and I think part of the whole process is if you're going to go this route, you really have to be equipped to deal with the limitations, because if you're not, you shouldn't have surgery, because you're not going to be happy. You have to understand, and I'm talking to the young guys now, that you're probably never going to get back to where you were once you cross that hair loss line.
No, I can guarantee you're not going to get back to where you were.
Right.
It's mathematically impossible. I mean, but we can do a great job at improving, how you look. And I don't know if people have seen my picture. I mean, my appearance in my mind is improved 2,000%.
Right.
But my hair is not close to what it used to look like in my mind in my glory years. But though you have to think of what's the alternative if I don't do this.
And I agree.
But you want to do it in capable hands because you don't want to be, of course, messed up. But I always tell the guys, okay, if you don't want to do this, you don't want to be bald, what's your alternative? You tell me what are your choices?
And I agree with that. I agree with that. But again, the problem is expectations. I'm sure there are people that sit in, you have a consultation with a patient. They're sitting there and they are staring at you and they're nodding their head, but they're not really listening. They're hearing what they want to hear. But they're not really listening at your, to your really, honest advice. And that's the problem. And I see that all the time. And we try to kind of, nip that issue in the bud. We try to give people an education even before they go into the consultation so that they know that, this is a cosmetic procedure that can really improve their lives. But it will never get them to where they were. And if they can't deal with that, then they shouldn't even consider surgery. And you'd be surprised, and obviously you know this, but how many people who can't deal with that? So maybe they should wait till they're 35 or 40 and live.
Never.
Or never. But even wait to the point where they lived, with significant hair loss for a while. And then they're like, you know what? I'd rather have a little more hair than live the way that I am right now. And I think those are the best candidates. Guys that do not have these expectations. But I'm telling you, man, as the internet evolves, even as the Bald Truth evolves and Bald Truth Talk, I just see more and more of it. People having even more unrealistic expectations than they had before, because there are guys out there who are now saying, well, you know what? We can provide you with more donor. We can provide you with more hair to use for future hair transplantation. So now these young cats,
guys like me, like beard hair.
Right. Well, that's and we could talk about that. I know Joe from Staten Island has a question about beard hair, but that's still a very specialized area that I believe most doctors haven't really entered into, and those who are claiming that they are doing beard hair in some instances really don't have a lot of experience, and I think there could be problems. Now, you're very experienced with beard hair, so why don't we talk about that since you brought that up?
Yeah, well, I mean, bottom line, I don't know if Joe's still there.
Yeah.
I mean, beard hair is never where we're going to, where you start. But if somebody's exhausted their donor, or say they want to preserve their donor and they have a wide scar, because we do a lot of donor scar repairs. And that was one thing I want to say about a young guy, that's one reason I shifted my practice to FUE, because I was doing a lot of the younger populations at the other practice. And a lot of guys turned out, just not in my hands, but in general, and you've heard this before, like, well, the hair is not what I thought, and all I got was this dumb scar in the back of my head for the rest of my life.
Right.
Yeah. So you feel like, oh my God, this guy is unhappy. He doesn't have the density he wants for whatever reason, for expectation. Now he has this scar. So in my mind, I wanted to take away variables, to make people concentrate on, it's too many variables. You got to worry about the back of the head and the front of the head for people complaining. I said, that's too much to talk about. So I'm going to take away one of those variables, which is the scar in the back. And so once I did that and just start, you take away that, it's much more smooth sailing. Trust me. Even with younger guys, when you reel them in with expectations, when they can't even talk about the scar in the back. Because when a guy says, I'm never going to shave my head, I'm never going to do that, and they're 25, even 35, they don't even know what they're going to do tomorrow.
Right.
How can they say they're never going to?
Well, with that said, that's why
it means nothing.
With that said, I say it all the time. I don't think if a guy is deciding to have a strip, and I think the strip has its place, I think he should, a minimum 35 years old, knowing that, he's lived a life a certain way, he likes to wear his hair a certain way, at least he's old enough to make a more rational decision, for most guys, maybe even 40.
Right.
But the young guy,
they have no idea.
Yeah, the young guy, man, the young guy, and I'm with you on this. The young guy, if you're considering surgical hair restoration, I say go for an FUE. That's the way to go. At least you can kind of back out of it at some point if you have to, if you haven't had too much work done.
Yeah, there's a decent exit strategy.
Absolutely. Now, I know Joe is actually on the line. I just potted him up, and I know he has a question for you. Joe, you still there, man?
Mm-hmm.
Joe,
yes.
Joe, go ahead.
Thank you, Spencer.
I know
Good
you
evening, Dr. Yates.
Yeah. Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Okay, how are you? I've noticed your picture. I've dissected several of your interviews. Were you a former model at one point? You're a very handsome man. I want to tell you that.
Joe, leave the guy alone, will you?
No,
actually, I'm a very famous model and actor, and I just got off Broadway. No, absolutely not. I'm just playing. I've done nothing.
Oh, I just want to.
I wasn't even a Boy Scout.
Point of that.
Okay.
Now my question is,
but no.
You're quite welcome, Doctor. What protocol do you employ, like for people who had past hair transplants, who had like 4mm plugs, who have depleted area? My question is three-pronged. What place will beard hair place in this? Will the virgin temple region and the sideburn area, which have never been used, are virgin? Does this play any role in repair patients?
No, unfortunately, the beard hair is so coarse, I would never put it in the temples, or the sideburns. It would stand out like a sore thumb. Beard hair, in my mind.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Say that again, Joe?
You misunderstanding my question.
All right, so ask it again.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Ask it again this time, Joe. This time, take the marbles out. Joe, take the marbles out of your mouth this time.
Okay, you're doing donor repair, doctor.
Okay, donor repair. Okay, got you.
Right. Not donor repair. Repair, people have a limited donor area.
Gotcha, okay.
Beard hair. And as you know, the temple region and the sideburn regions are virgin. Can they be
I understand.
For donor area?
So you're asking asking if he could utilize your sideburns and
your temple region.
And your temple region.
Temple area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Depending on the patient, I wouldn't deplete that area, because the goal in a good hair transplant is you want the density on the top to match the density on the sides to match, like the whole thing to match. That's what the goal of a good FUE surgeon, not to have so you can, I would, if the guy had strong temples and virgin areas, I would use some of that hair where I could use it. Yeah, I sure would.
Because years ago, they never touched the temple region or the cyber region for some reason. The region above.
Yeah, but Joe, years ago they weren't consistently. I mean, there were guys who were doing FUE, obviously, 2002, 2003, 2004, but most guys weren't, Joe. So they weren't experimenting in that region because the guys that were just starting to do FUE were kind of focusing on extracting the hair from the donor region. Yeah, from the easier areas. But things have evolved. So, of course, that stuff could be used, I think, in within its limits.
Yeah, I would use it.
One final question. What is the maximum amount of beard grafts would you be able to take from a beard patient?
Well, say the maximum amount that, say, I've taken, and that's like one of those personal, questions. Each surgeon is going to be different. Dr. Cole probably has the most experience with this. But in one procedure, the maximum I've taken out, and we take out under the jaw so it doesn't leave any scars, is roughly around 800 grafts.
My point is, of a series of procedures, what is the maximum a beard would be able to yield, like in a series of procedures?
I'd say around, if a guy has a decent thickness, density under the chin, I'd say probably 1,500 to 2,000 maybe.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
The most I've taken out is about 1,500. I know Dr. Cole's done more.
So if you use the temple regions and cyber regions, you look at maybe another 2,500 to 3,000 grafts. Am I correct in that estimate?
Well, again, the temple regions, maybe you can get out another, depending on how thick they are, maybe another 300-400. Maybe from the temples and the beard, you could get a pretty sizable case out of it. Yes, I say so.
So, Joe, is this something? Is this something?
Question. You actually will take hair out of sideburns yourself? Sideburns grow very long.
Joe, can you hear me, Joe?
I've never. Well, the sideburns I really don't take hair from because that's on the frontal part of the face. I'll leave sideburns alone. I reconstruct sideburns all day long. The only beard or facial hair I even go after is the hair under the mandible, which is hidden under the chin. So it would never leave any visible scarring. So a sideburn, I wouldn't really use a true sideburn as donor hair. I wouldn't touch that.
Right.
Temple hair,
question, please. Yeah. I'm sorry. What?
Go ahead, Joe.
I was saying temple hair. I would use.
What area? Not again. The what area?
I was saying the temple area. Yes, that temple area. Yes, you can push that forward a bit and take some of that hair as donor, but I wouldn't take from the sideburn. No.
One final question: do you employ chest hair at all?
I do not, but I totally agree with people who do, like Dr. Cole and the other doctor in California, I forgot his name, Dr. Umar maybe, that I've looked at some of their work. The problem with, I try to do things that are the most reliable, like whatever I do that I can sleep at night and not have to worry about it. Chest hair just doesn't grow as well. So I think the rates that Dr. Cole is reporting about 50% of it, so that's a coin toss. You plant two hairs, that's too much, for me. And Dr. Cole, explains that to the patient, but still a lot of patients have a lot of chest hair. So 50% percentage, again, a little bit of something's better than a lot of nothing. So that still works for some patients. But no, I haven't done chest hair, no.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
One final point.
Joe, can you hear me?
Beard hair grows at a much faster rate than scalp hair.
Hold on.
Am I correct with that analysis?
Joe,
it grows. Yeah, it grows way faster than scalp hair. Yes. Joe,
are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I hear you're very weakly. You and the doctor, I hear very faintly.
All right, I'm having problems with my phone. I'm trying to cut in here, and you keep talking and talking and talking.
I can't hear you, Spencer. I really can't hear you.
All right, let me ask you a question. Are you planning on getting something done? Because you've been talking about this for years. Is this something that you're actually thinking about having done?
A beard? You employ my beard or temple region? Yeah, there's additional donor area.
Okay, so
do it. Yeah, beard, sure.
You would.
My beard grows so fast. If I don't shave for weeks, Spencer, I look like Santa Claus.
All right. Well, Joe, I mean, like I said, I've been telling you this for years. You're kind of like stuck in this rut. You're not moving on with your life. And, I mean, do you think that 2,500 grafts or 3,000 grafts would make that much of a difference in your life? Do you think that it would get you out of the house? Do you think that it would help you to start, enjoying yourself a little bit more?
Yes, I do.
So why isn't it being done? Why don't you get it done?
Because I would know a doctor in New York, Gary, who does beard transplants.
Well, you don't have to stick to New York, dude. You can go see Dr. Yates.
Cole's not far from New York.
He's
straight down.
You can see Dr. Cole. You can see Dr. Yates.
Right.
Well, it's true. Maybe I'd like to see Dr. Yates. I'm very impressed by him.
Well, I think maybe
it's an option.
Yeah, I think maybe what you should do is at least let him see you. You can do something via Skype so he can kind of take a look at what's going on under there and see if he could even help you.
Well, Spencer, as you know, I've been to 4 different doctors. They all told me 4 different things, as you know.
But they also all told you that you have body dysmorphia.
Spencer and I were talking about that. I mean, the whole industry is just not regulated medically like other facets of medicine are. So there's going to be it's like art. There are just 4 different artists saying 4 different things. But that's not to say there are a lot of great doctors out here. It's just lots of different interpretations of how to do it.
All right, listen, Joe. I'm going to let Dr. Yates go. I know that I'm having some issues with the phone.
Okay, Dr. Yates, I really appreciate your time. I want to say you're a great asset to the IAHRS, and you're really a great man, and I respect you greatly, Doctor. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for the compliments. Thank you.
All right, listen.
By the way, your phones are very weak tonight. I'm not trying to be critical. Very, very weak.
Okay. Well, we'll work on that, Joe. I apologize.
Right.
So, Dr. Yates, Yates, you can hear me, right?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to call in and to talk to our listeners and kind of, give them a little perspective because, like I try to tell them every week, everybody is a little different in this field. But there are some really good guys that, they may have slightly different philosophies, but the bottom line is they're out there trying to help patients and help to give them the best advice possible. And what I really like about what you're doing is that you are taking the time out of your day, out of your busy practice, to educate patients. You don't have to do that. You're putting out videos because you think it's important. I think it's important. And I just want to, I want to thank you for doing that because I think it goes a long way in really giving guys a little bit better perspective. Again, I use that word like 5 times in the last 3 minutes, but I really believe that. I think young guys especially need to know what they're getting into before they make that decision. It also makes your life a hell of a lot easier when patients come in with a little bit of an education.
Right. No, it makes it a lot easier. And I'm speaking because, I was a patient too. So I know exactly, what they're thinking, what to expect, because my expectations when I had my hair transplant, I thought, you can get all your hair, as they say you get your hair back and, but it just doesn't work that way. And I tell patients, I'm not a magician. This is real medicine. This is organ transplantation. We can make a vast change in your life, but I'm not a magician and you have to help me and it's going to take some work on your part too. If they're not willing to put in any work, meaning, hairstyling or doing things that I request, like if, I think if Propecia is important or some other things or Rogaine or this or that, because it's a two-way street because I'm signing my name to the portrait when I do their hair. So, I'm very particular about that.
Before I let you go, that's actually an interesting point. Now, how do you feel about working on guys who aren't taking Propecia?
Depending on the age and how much hair loss they have, it varies. Say on one extreme, if it's a, older guy and he's almost done shedding, I could care less. A young guy that's, that's going to be, changing and shedding and losing hair. I'm very reluctant, but
right.
If the person seems grounded and, I discuss it with them at length, and I think that, and again, these are hard decisions for me to make, just like they're trying to evaluate me. I'm evaluating them the same way. If I think that, everything will be okay as far as expectations, I'll move ahead. If I don't feel that way, I'll just say, I don't think, you and I are going to work. And some of them say, why? And I say, I just don't know. And I can't give them a reason, but I just don't think that, it's going to work out.
Listen, I like the fact that you said that patient selection is key. And if you think that there could be an issue down the line, you are saving the patient a great deal of issues that he does not even he's not even aware he could possibly be faced with. So I think that says a lot. All right, Dr. Yates, I really appreciate the call. People can find you, obviously, through the IHRS website at ihrs.org. Check out Dr. William Yates, and you could also see him through baldtruthtalk.com, message forums, and on all of our other resources. And I'm looking forward to seeing your next video, Dr. Yates, so, keep them coming.
Yeah. Okay, I will. Thanks for inviting me. I do appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks a lot. Have a great night. Okay.
You too. Bye-bye.
Phone number is 888-659-3727. That was Dr. William Yates. He's always a great guy to call in, great caller, I should say, a great guest. I would say he's one of the more ethical guys, and he's extremely honest. I mean, listen, I always say everyone has kind of their own way of practicing this field of medicine. He practices it based on his experience. He is a patient himself. He was a patient first before he got involved in this, and he's had several hair transplants. So, he knows what's going on. He knows how you guys feel. And I really think that is a tremendous asset for him as a hair transplant surgeon and for patients who seek his advice, because, he's talking to you like a regular guy. He's been there, he's done it, and he knows exactly what the entire scope, and I say this all the time, and possible pitfalls are, because even in his own hair transplants, he's seen some of those pitfalls, and he's made certain decisions after having certain procedures. And, in his mind, he would never have a strip again because he's had several strips. I'm going to be speaking to a doctor on Thursday who decided to recently have who had his third hair transplant, and he could have gone the FUE route, and he could have had anyone in the world perform the surgery, free of charge, of course, but he chose to have another strip, and I want to understand why he chose to do that. I mean, he explained some of it to me on the phone, but I think it's important for you guys to get that perspective as well. Phone number is 888-659-3727. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'll be taking some more calls before we wind up the show. We have about another half hour left for the broadcast. Again, 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, the Red Rocker, Sammy Hagar. And Michael Anthony. You're listening to the baldest on the planet, Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth. Woo!
Hey guys, welcome back. Phone number is 888-659-3727. Yes, this show is live. Everyone who's emailing me, can't you tell it's live? Call us if you want to speak to me. It's a great opportunity. 888-659-3727. What I find funny is, if you're real fans of the show, you would have known that, and you would have called in to speak to Dr. Yates. He's not on the phone anymore. I'm sorry, I let him go. He's a busy guy. And he was kind enough to spend like 40 minutes with us. So cut me a break. If you want to contact him, you can contact him through Bald Truth Talk message forums. I'm sure he'll be fine with answering some questions. 888-659-3727. I started off the show talking about this, what I consider to be a phenomenon of people, or of a situation where people really are spending so much time online that they're becoming paralyzed by the information that's out there. Because it's coming from so many different directions now. You don't know what the fuck to believe. You don't know who's telling the truth. You know, when I started using finasteride back in was it 93 or 94? It was it's been forever. You know, I read an article in the New York Times about Merck, who is about this prostate drug. That was being used, obviously, on older men with benign prostate hyperplasia. And it seemed like one of the side effects of this drug was that these guys who have been losing their hair for years, they noticed that their hair loss either stopped or started to reverse. And by the way, if you guys hear a weird noise, that's my computer. It's so hot in here. It's 100 degrees in the studio. And I can't run the air that everything's about to explode. You can see it all over my face, too. Now, mind you, this drug had already been FDA approved. It had already been used for a long time and tested for many years. And the incidence of adverse side effects were relatively low in guys taking it in a much higher dosage than those who are using finasteride right now for hair loss, Propecia. For me, it was a no-brainer. It was my goal to somehow get myself on this drug to see if, in fact, it can stop my hair loss. You guys have to remember, this is back in a time when, Rogaine was recently approved. I forgot the exact year, and I should know this. I'm getting old. Was recently approved for hair loss. I was actually I had a doctor who was actually prescribing giving me a prescription to take to a compounding pharmacy to use Lonitin tablets. Basically they crushed Lonitin tablets with some sort of a vehicle, an alcohol-based. There may have been some propylene glycol in there. And to take this mess, which it was a mess, and I put that on my head, that was the first Rogaine. So I come from a time when there was nothing. I come from a time when the internet was in its infancy. And at the time when I started to use this drug, no one even used the internet. Barely anybody. I didn't go in there fearful of these possible long-term adverse side effects. I was told by a couple of doctors that using this drug could end up feminizing me. One doctor in particular who wanted me to continue to buy his concoction of minoxidil and retin-A. But after a while, I decided, I'm not going to listen to this guy. I'm going to take the information that I have to a doctor that I know and ask him to kind of check out the drug for me. This guy looked it up in the physician's desk reference and said, based on what I see here, it's one of the safest drugs in the PDR. I have no problem prescribing it to you, because he was also curious himself to see if it would work for hair loss. So in around 94, I was prescribed the drug Proscar. And it's because of that article, and because I was so desperate to find something to stop my hair loss, because there was nothing. That's the reason why I'm here today. That's the reason why I wrote The Bald Truth. That's the reason why I founded the American Hair Loss Association. That's the reason why I founded the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. That's the reason why I wrote The Truth About Women's Hair Loss and got on the radio. That's the reason why I have this career. Because this drug had such a profound effect on my life. And there was a time when the message forums were filled with guys who are having success with finasteride treatment. When Propecia was approved in December of 1997, the internet went wild. In the message forums at the time, back then, there was, Hairsight, which is still around, and there was like alt.baldspot, which was a Usenet group or user group, whatever they're called. No one, well, very few people, were discussing adverse side effects. Most of the guys who use the drug seemed to have no adverse side effects, at least the guys that were taking the time to write and to post. And there was a whole new wave, a whole new generation of hair loss sufferers who were kind of slowing down their hair loss, halting the process in some cases, and even regrowing hair. It had never been done before. Just wasn't, this was a new thing. And there was so much success online, so many people writing about their success stories. And it seems like that the whole thing is reversed. Now the young guys are so scared of the drug. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. I think that if this information was out there, or whoever's putting this information out there, if it was as prominent as it is today, I probably wouldn't have had the success that I have. I probably never would have touched this pill. I'd probably be significantly bald at this point. And I certainly wouldn't be sitting in front of this mic right now telling you this story, talking to you about my situation. But I am. I took a leap of faith, and for me it worked out. But sadly, if I would have read everything that's on, like I see even on my own message forum about finasteride, I never would be in this position today. I find this sometimes difficult to swallow because I know how many guys would succeed with this drug and have probably no adverse side effects. But I'm also at a point in my life where, obviously I'm satisfied with where I am, and I feel very fortunate. But I also don't want to necessarily guide people in that direction because, I don't know. I don't want them to be the anomaly. I don't want the young guys out there who listen to this broadcast, who read the message forum, who have maybe read things or read my book in the past, to take that advice and then, because there's so much information out there about potential side effects, kind of be burdened with that once they take the drug, whether it's real or not. I don't even know if I want to be in that position at this point, if you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm kind of like at a crossroads. I firmly believe that most people that use this drug will have some degree of success with it and have no adverse side effects. But I'm also at a point now where I believe that there probably are the anomalies, that some of what's being put out there online is probably true. And there is a subset of guys, I'm sweating like it's unbelievably hot in here. There are a subset of guys who are having adverse side effects and maybe having long-term adverse side effects that are real. It's hard to quantify. But how does someone reconcile that? It must be, and I know I speak to doctors who prescribe this drug, it's becoming more and more difficult for them to prescribe this drug, even though in their minds they know it's probably in the best interest of the patient for them to say, listen, if you really want to stop your hair loss, you need to take this drug. But people are afraid to do it now. I'm curious. I want to know your opinion. I want to know, for the guys who are using finasteride, I want to know, what do you tell your friends? Do you feel comfortable suggesting that your friends use this drug? Because on a personal level, I do. But on a global level, on the level that we are right now with the Bald Truth, I feel extremely comfortable telling my story and letting people know that I've succeeded with it. And just about every person that I know in my personal life has had success with the drug without any adverse side effects. But I'm certainly not comfortable telling someone, you know what? You got to take this drug, otherwise you're going to go bald. Because I don't know how they're going to react to it. So I'm curious. What do you tell your friends? The guys who are on the drug. 888-659-3727. And I know a guy who's holding on who's been on both finasteride and I think dutasteride. He can correct me if I'm wrong. Joe, you've been on both, right?
Yes, I've been on finasteride, dutasteride, Rogaine, oral spironolactone, estrogen, and progesterone shots.
And
let's put it this way: it didn't do a damn thing for my hair, but it actually was an aphrodisiac.
Jeez, it's got to be 110 degrees in here. I'm not even exaggerating. I am sweating, and I'm so uncomfortable. But go ahead. So it's like an aphrodisiac for you. I would say that.
No, when Dr. Orangetribe chemically castrated me in the early 70s, I told you I was growing breasts and I was impudent.
Did you say impudent?
He gave me oral estrogen, progesterone.
Right.
And my DHT level was like 0.
And you were impudent, you said.
Impudent, and I was growing breasts.
So you were impotent.
Yes, that's a fact.
Right.
And my hair was falling out dramatically. It would do a damn thing for my hair. But on the other hand, years later, I used dutasteride and finasteride. Milligrams a day, be sure. And I used dutasteride later on, 1 milligram daily. It did nothing for my hair, but it was like an aphrodisiac. The side effect was it made me very, shall we say, horny.
But let me ask you this. When you took the drugs, were you really involved in what was happening online? Because back then when you started taking it, there really wasn't a lot of talk about this possible permanent or long-lasting adverse sexual side effects after stopping the drug. So, I mean, did you have any concern getting on the drug? Because I will tell you, in my life, I haven't. And I have told so many people to use this drug, and so many thousands of people have read my book over the years. And you know what? Until 2006, I would say, and I've been around for a long time, not a single person ever came back to me to say, you know what? That drug screwed me up. I got off the drug and I'm impotent. Not a single person. I would say that it was very rare to have someone call into the program to say that they had adverse side effects when they were on the drug. And in my personal life, no one, not a single person, and just about every friend that I have is currently taking the drug. And I have a lot of friends and kids that I grew up with. And most of them have had significant success with it. Some have had moderate success, but no one has had an adverse side effect. What is it? Why do you think that it's happening?
Sorry.
Why do you think that this is being written about so often now? You know, guys who are on the message forum, as soon as they fucking look at the drug, they can't get it up. What is it, man?
I don't know. This should be like I took. Let me just quickly. I took over 3 years, from 1997 to 2000. I have to say, I had absolutely no side effects from it.
Right.
But I've noticed in the last couple of years, this stuff about the side effects of Propecia started to just all of a sudden come from nowhere, from left field. And there's lawsuits now. There's all kinds of anti-Propecia
Well,
stuff.
let me tell you. As far as lawsuits, you can't. That does not say anything. You know, I mean, when a lawyer latches onto something, the possibility of suing a pharmaceutical company, that shit is going to spread like wildfire. So to me, that does not legitimize the possible adverse side effects. What legitimizes the side effects in my mind, are the guys that are claiming they're having side effects. It's not the lawsuits. Lawsuits don't mean anything.
Because anyone could sue anybody for anything.
That's exactly right. So these guys, listen, most lawyers are vultures. I hate to say it. I deal with lawyers all the time. There are some good lawyers out there, but I would tell you that most of my experiences with attorneys have not been wonderful. And I'm talking about attorneys that I've worked with, who are on my side. I had recently had a great attorney, but that's besides the point. But so that doesn't legitimize it. What legitimizes it in my mind is that there seem to be guys out there who are really in pain, guys who are really suffering. But before 2005, 2006, you just didn't hear about this. And I have been in the trenches the entire time. So that's why I'm so confused. There was a time when this radio broadcast was on 26 radio stations across the country. Strong blowtorch, 50,000 watt blowtorch stations. Thousands upon thousands of people listened in each market, and thousands of people were taking this drug because they either read the book or they, learned about, physicians they should see to potentially stop their hair loss or whatever. And nobody, not a single person, ever contacted us to complain about an adverse side effect. And then all of a sudden, bingo, it's all over the internet. What is this phenomenon? Tell me.
I wish I have no idea. It's creeped up in the last, would you say 2 years, right? Am I correct?
No, I would say that you first started probably about late 2005, 2006. Some of these sites kind of crept on the internet. A couple of guys, started websites because they believed they were adversely affected. And I believe that they were too, because I don't think they would be this proactive if it wasn't the case. But there's
Don't you receive a lot of hate mail because of your advocation of Propecia?
I received a death threat and some hate mail, but not a lot. But I've received, from one particular person, I've received a death threat, which I find amazing because I don't make any money from Merck. I do not advertise them on my resources or on this broadcast. And I talk about my personal experience, which has led me to this career and has led me to a life where I believe, the reason I have the hair that I have, whatever I have left, is because of early intervention, because of this drug. And partially because of genetics, obviously. But it's been nothing but good to me. At this point, like I say, I don't know. I could end up with some sort of cancer, prostate cancer, or some sort of disease that could be related to using this drug, or to suppressing my DHT, or suppressing the enzyme that converts DHT. I guess that's possible. But in 20 years, it hasn't happened. So at this stage, I'm doing pretty well. But just like with anything that we put into our bodies, we're always taking a risk. We get into our car to drive to work, we're taking a risk. If we decide to smoke or to drink on a regular basis, we're taking a risk. If we decide to eat certain foods or to not drink filtered water, we're taking a risk. Living in a certain city and breathing in pollution, we're taking a risk.
Well, as you know, I'm on a lot of antipsychotics, and you should read some of the potential side effects from them.
I know.
Yeah, what's that of you?
Dude, what about women who are taking birth control pills? Birth control is prescribed like candy, and the potential of adverse sexual side effects is huge, let alone
hair
loss, blood clots, heart conditions.
Heart attack.
Yeah, heart attack. I mean, severe adverse side effects. Women's sexual dysfunction is really not talked about or discussed too much or really focused on. But do you know how many women have sexual dysfunction because of birth control? And how many women who have complained about long-term or permanent sexual dysfunction even after getting off the pill? It's huge. But you don't see any lawsuits about that. So it's very...
Your expert opinion, what is the reason for this phenomenon against Propecia?
My expert opinion is I think there's a certain level of mass hysteria, but I think that mass hysteria is based on some very real adverse side effects, but that are really just, that only a subset of the population are dealing with. But I believe that they're real. There's no doubt in my mind at this point that there has to be something real happening. But I think it's such a small percentage of guys, and I think that if they kind of figure it out, I think that it would be reversible. But I just don't think that they've really figured it out. And I think that a lot of the doctors, sadly, who are treating these guys who have this, post-finasteride syndrome, in my view, a lot of these guys are taking advantage of the situation, and they don't know what the fuck's going on either.
But as you just getting on, but as you know, the patent for Propecia is expiring at the end of this year. Is that correct?
You are right about that.
Maybe I should somehow get topical solutions together to alleviate some of these fears. That could be a possibility too.
Well, it is a possibility. They're
a new market.
Yeah, they're already working on.
Surprised they haven't done that already.
They already have topical solutions. They're already working on topical solutions, and that may be the case. But the truth is,
you really can't hear you. Say it loud.
In my view, a topical solution can never do what finasteride does orally. And again, I'm not a doctor. But listen, Joe, it's 2 minutes after the hour. I appreciate you hanging out. I don't know why, for whatever reason, you can't hear me, but Dr. Yates was able to hear me just fine. Joe? All right.
Yes, Spencer, I can't hear you.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for hanging out, dude. I got to go.
I want to thank you for the millions of people listening to the show. We appreciate you doing a show for us tonight, Spencer.
You got it, man. I appreciate you guys hanging out and wanting me to still do the show after 14 years. It's a big deal. It really is. Guys, I have to go. TheBaldTruth.com, of course, is the website. If you want to check out archive shows of The Bald Truth, that's the place to go. Also, if you want to interact with other hair loss sufferers who are dealing with the same situation that you're in, check out BaldTruthTalk.com. All I have to say is if you start to really spend a lot of time in the message forum, rein yourself in. Go out and live your life. Message forum is there to interact with other hair loss sufferers, but not to spend your fucking lives on there. It wasn't created to separate you from the real world. It was there for you guys to get information, to learn potentially how to deal with your hair loss and treat your hair loss so that you can go on and live in the real world. So please, limit your hours. And and people think I'm crazy to say that, because when it comes to the internet, traffic is the name of the game. And while I appreciate you guys making BaldTruthTalk.com the #1 most trafficked hair loss forum in the world, frankly, I would prefer if you spent more time living your life than spending it on the message forum. I hope you take that advice. Also, you can check out the American Hair Loss Association at AmericanHairLoss.org. Until next time, I want all of you guys to be strong. God bless. And thank you so much for listening. Have a great night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.